Chapter 111 of Married Thrice to Salted Fish. It was dark and he couldn't see, but Jiangxin could imagine what kind of expression Lin Qingyu had on right now. He got up and lit the lamp. The light penetrated the gauze curtain, illuminating the dragon bed, a warm pale yellow. Jiangxin sat down on the bed with his legs apart. He pulled Lin Qingyu out of the quilt and carefully scrutinized the other's expression. Just as he imagined, he was looking helpless and at a loss. He put Lin Qingyu on his lap and wrapped his arms around him from behind. He said, "Of course you can. You can love me as much as you want, and how much that is exactly as much as I want." Lin Qingyu lowered his eyes and said, "If the way heaven deals retribution onto me is to by making the one I love suffer, if that were the case, why does heaven keep giving me a chance to come back from dead? Wouldn't it be better to simply make me stay dead?" What Jiangxin said made sense, but Lin Qingyu was still worried. He said, plagued by lingering fear, "Maybe if I'm any worse, they really will take you away." "They? Who's they?" "I don't know," Lin Qingyu murmured. "They can't get to me, so they bully you, because they know that this is the best way to torture me. You have to think about it from another angle. They just can't bear to see you suffer, so they keep sending me back again and again. Last time I was sent to the Northwest, and you were miserable for half a year. This time they let me return to the city immediately after I died, and I was able to find you as soon as I woke up." It was as though Jiangxin had woken up from a dream. "My God, Qingyu, you are a beauty of fortune favored by heaven." Lin Qingyu asked again, "Why would they favor me?" Jiangxin pretended to think. "Maybe it's because you found the antidote to the epidemic a few years ago." Lin Qingyu shook his head. "I can't claim credit for that by myself." "You have done enough," Jiangxin told him. "Better than most people." Lin Qingyu smiled, as if he had been coaxed into feeling a little better. Jiangxin breathed a sigh of relief. As soon as he relaxed, he started to feel sleepy again. Besides, the national teacher said that Shaoli's body is my original body in the Dayu. The first two don't fit me, and the soul wasn't a match for the body. Naturally, it couldn't have lasted long. I just had to die twice more to get back to my actual body. What does this have to do with you?" Lin Qingyu thought for a long time, but still decided in the end. "Regardless, I will do less bad things in the future." "Don't, Baobei. Do what you want to do. If you change yourself for our relationship, then that will make me a scumbag." Jiangxin knew Lin Qingyu too well, and Lin Qingyu's malice would never arise for no reason. He didn't need Lin Qingyu to suppress his instincts. Rather, he needed all these other idiots to mind their own business and stop messing with his wife. Lin Qingyu looked back at him and asked, "Then, if other people still come to provoke you and I in the future, can I still do bad things to them?" "Of course you can. You can do whatever bad things you want to them." Jiangxin put his chin on Lin Qingyu's shoulder, narrowing his eyes, and said, "Even as a sickly invalid like Lu Wancheng, I was able to take care of the aftermath for you. Now that I'm sitting upon the imperial throne, why shouldn't you be allowed to play around as you please? Baobei, do not worry. I will take care of it if something goes wrong." Lin Qingyu laughed. "I am a powerful minister and you are a puppet monarch. What are you talking about taking care of things for me?" Jiangxin did his best to hold back his sleepiness and patiently explained, "If even an idiot like Shao Jie could get Xiaolian and the Tianji camp to be loyal to him just by sitting on the dragon throne, just imagine what I can do. There are so many things that I can do now by virtue of this position. Jiang Xing always knew how to make him feel at ease. Lynching his heart settled down and he said, "It's getting late. I will go back to the side hall to sleep." Jiang Xing was so sleepy that he hugged Lin Qingyu and threw them back together onto the bed. "You're already here, so why go?" Lin Qingyu hesitated. "If tomorrow the eunuch who comes in to serve you in the morning sees—" "It's all right. The only one who waits on me in the mornings is Sha Songxi." Lin Qingyu also didn't want to be separated from Jiang Xing, so he found a comfortable position in his arms, curled up in a ball, and fell asleep. The next day, Sha Songxi came in to serve His Majesty as usual. He was surprised to find that the emperor was already up. What shocked him even more was that there was a figure behind the bed's curtain canopy. "Yuma." Jiang Xing raised his finger to his lips. "Shh." Sha Songxi covered his mouth. He stared and shook his head as if to say that he didn't see anything. When the two proceeded to the outer hall, Jiang Xing said, "Where did Master Lin go after presiding over General Gu's funeral yesterday?" Sha Songxi said, "Master Lin took Wu Gaogong, General Shi, General Wu, as well as Shen Gongzi to Dali Temple." Taking the generals and Shen Haoshi to Dali Temple must have been to discuss the matter regarding the robbery of the provisions from Jingnan. So that was the reason why he had to put in so much effort to get Lin Qingyu back to normal. A few words from Shirang had agitated Lin Qingyu so much that he couldn't sleep, and so he threw himself into his arms for comfort. That needs to be taken care of." Jiang Xing put on his dragon robe and said, "Go and call Shen Haoshi." Shen Haoshi had not yet arrived when Shu Junyan came asking to see him. He came to ask Jiang Xing for his leave. Now that the emperor has trustworthy people around him, His Majesty has no need for this minister. The clamors in the palace is not conducive for my spiritual cultivation. I would like to return to Chanseng Temple and devote myself to praying for the Dayu and the emperor." Jiang Xing said, "You came just in time. Jen has something to ask you. According to what you said, I am now using my own original body. My soul shouldn't go running around anymore, correct?" Shu Junyan nodded and said, replying to the emperor, "Yes, it shouldn't." Jiang Xing had said the same to Lin Qingyu, but Lin Qingyu still got worked up over nothing. Psychological problems sometimes needed external support. Maybe a physical reassurance could be effective in giving Lin Qingyu some peace of mind. "Do you have maybe a soul-settling jade or something like that?" "Soul-settling jade?" Shu Junyan wondered. "What is that?" In other words, there wasn't any such thing. Jiang Xing looked Shu Junyan up and down, his gaze zeroing in on the jade pendant around his waist. "That." At this moment, Sha Songxi brought in Shen Haoshi. "Your Majesty, Shen Gongzi is here." Shen Haoshi had known the true identity of the emperor for some time. After digesting this information for so long, he could now, with much difficulty, reconcile the Gu Fuzhao he knew with this young emperor in front of him. This was also due to the fact that Jiang Xing's personality was simply too distinct, especially during time when he made no effort to hide it. You would not be able to find another in this world that gave off the same feeling. Shen Haoshi was about to kneel down to salute when he heard the emperor say, "You don't need to be polite in front of me. I heard that Master Lin took you to Dali Temple yesterday." Shen Haoshi nodded. Yes. Did he say how Shirang was going to be dealt with? Master Lin left the matter to us. General Wu means to let him experience Dai's torture. Jiangxin disagreed. Shirang can endure even waterboarding. How can everything else compare to that? When dealing with a person like him, attacking the heart is the best strategy. Shen Haoshi asked, what does His Majesty have in mind? Jiangxin smiled and said, nothing brilliant, but you must wish to consider it. For example, you could take Shirang to Jinyang Garden and Jiangxin paused. Have him commit suicide? Xu Junyan was curious. Why Jinyang Garden? Jiangxin said casually. The scenery there is beautiful. When Xu Junyan understood, he couldn't help being quite surprised. This was not like Jiang Gongzi's style. This was more like something Lin Chingyu would do. Come to think of it, Jiang Gongzi was gradually adapting to his new identity. The so-called imperial throne encompassed all under heaven. The emperor held power over everyone. All were within his mind. Hearing movement in the hall, Jiangxin waved the two of them back. Lin Qingyu was tying up his hair when he saw Jiangxin come in. He asked, I missed morning court. Why didn't you wake me up? Jiangxin said, I just woke up too. I have something to show you. What is it? Jiangxin opened his hand and a jade pendant tied with a palace sash hung from his finger. This is the legendary soul-settling jade. Lin Qingyu was suspicious. Soul-settling jade? With this, my soul will be firmly attached to this body and it won't go flying around the Dayu ever again. Jiangxin was making this up. I heard from Xu Junyan that this was made from a piece of jade found at the very top of Kunlun mountain. A piece of spirit stone nourished by the aura of heaven and earth has become a spiritual Lin Qingyu. ... He had just mentioned this matter last night, and Xu Junyan already took the initiative to send this over. How could there be such a coincidence? But Jiangxin was trying so hard to appease him that he didn't want to disappoint Jiangxin. Lin Qingyu chuckled softly. I see. I feel very relieved. A few days later, news came from Jinyang Garden. Shirang refused to comply with the order. He refused to hang himself in the garden. After dragging on for an hour, his throat was sliced by Shipei's sword. Blood flowed from his mouth and neck, soaking the ground. Even the peach blossoms in the garden seemed a little more delicate and charming. It was said that before he died, he had only one request. Ajay, don't look. The day after Shirang's death, Shao Jie too went mad. It might not be quite accurate to use the word mad. He made no fuss, nor did he have any violent outburst. However, his eyes lost their luster. He uttered not a word, leaving himself to the mercy of others. Just like how Shaoli was before, it seemed as though nothing but a delicate shell remained. After Lin Qingyu learned of this, he asked Shao Songxi to send a bottle of medicine to Shao Jie. Jiangxin asked him, is Master Lin going to do something bad, or is he going to do something good? Lin Qingyu smiled lightly. Your Majesty is free to venture a guess. In March, the grass grew and the warblers flew. The spring blossoms flourished. This long winter was finally over. Under the tireless teaching of the Empress Dowager, although His Majesty still didn't talk much, his words have become more and more fluent. Ordinary princes, once they learned to speak, moved on to learning to recognize characters. Followed by the 4 books and the 5 classics, then historical studies and policy discussions. The Empress Dowager devoted herself to the cultivation of His Majesty and seldom intervened in government affairs. Lin Qingyu was left alone with his trusted aides to drag the slacker emperor's country forward. Finally, he pushed on to the position of Prime Minister. Lin Qingyu has never passed the government examination. A mere imperial physician was unexpectedly able to become the head of 100 officers at this day and age. Some people say that he got to where he was now by treading on two dead husbands. Some people say his methods were superb and wondered what sort of potion he had fed the previous emperor and the Empress Dowager. And still others disagreed, persisting in their belief that Lin Qingyu had relied on his face. However, no matter how unpleasant the things people said in private, they still had to respectfully address him as Prime Minister Lin. On this day, Lin Qingyu happened to pass by the Imperial Hospital and he saw many new faces. These people were all medical officers who had just entered the palace, and some of them seemed to be about the same age as he was when he entered the palace. A medical officer was walking along, frowning and lost in thought. Who knows what he was thinking? When his acupuncture bag fell to the ground, he did not even notice. Lin Qingyu bent down and picked it up. He said, "Stop." The medical officer turned his head when he heard this. He was met with the sight of a crane embroidered on an indigo uniform of office. Above that was a beautiful and fierce face. The medical officer was stunned and only returned to his senses when he heard the eunuch cough. He hurriedly knelt down and said, "Greetings to the Prime Minister." In this palace, there was only one person who could have such a beautiful face wearing a crane embroidered official uniform. Lin Qingyu looked at the acupuncture bag for a while and then returned it. The medical officer was overwhelmed by this favor from a superior and took it with trembling hands. Blushing, he said, "Thank you, Prime Minister." Lin Qingyu was momentarily dazed. He said, "You best be on your way." Sure enough, compared to handling government affairs, he still preferred the art of healing and cultivating gu. Unfortunately, since Shaojie ascended the throne, he had not had time to do the things he likes. When Lin Qingyu returned to Xinqing Palace, he felt inexplicably tired when he saw the mountain of scrolls on the table. He forced himself to open one of them, a report for Wu Yuan from the northwest. According to the report, the Northwest Army had successfully captured a large city in Xixia. This was the first city in the southeast of Xixia with a population of tens of thousands. They didn't want to hurt the surrendered soldiers and civilians, but Xixia's surrendered soldiers secretly colluded with the civilians, causing no end of trouble for the Northwest garrison. Wu Yuan was proficient in the art of war and quickly matured into his role as a general after Gu Fuzhao's death. However, he didn't know the first thing about governing a country. He could easily capture a city, but he didn't know how to govern one. Lin Qingyu picked up his brush and was about to evaluate the matter when a voice came from outside. "The Emperor returns to the palace." Jiang Shen waved away the others and complained, "I finally got free from Xi'an Palace." "What are you doing?" Lin Qingyu's tone was cool. "What else?" Jiang Shen keenly noticed the grievance in Lin Qingyu's tone. He walked behind Lin Qingyu and said, eagerly attentive, "Your Excellency, you have worked hard. Shall I give you a shoulder massage?" Lin Qingyu didn't stop Jiang Shen. Jiang Shen massaged his shoulders just right, relieving a little bit of his fatigue. After a while, he said, "My legs are also sore." Jiangshan pushed away the scrolls, freeing up a small space on the table. He carried Lin Qingyu onto that so that he could wait on him. Under Jiangshan's careful ministration, the beautiful Prime Minister was touched everywhere. Even Lin Qingyu's official uniform was massaged into disarray. Jiangxing, who was still a hot-blooded young man, inevitably started to feel a little frisky. He asked politely, "Qingyu, can you spare some time for me to take advantage of you?" Lin Qingyu hadn't been in any mood to handle official matters in the first place, and so he stretched out his hand and asked, "And how do you plan to take advantage?" Jiangshan's breathing tightened, and he said with a smile, "Lord Prime Minister, you're getting Zhen painfully hard." Lin Qingyu said regrettably, "However, this minister still has a mountain of reports to get through." "It's fine, I will help you look through them later." Lin Qingyu didn't believe it. "You know how to?" Jiangshan said absent-mindedly. "I can give it a try." Ever since Lin Qingyu began attending court and overseeing government affairs, he held a brush every day. A thin layer of calluses had formed on the pads of his fingertips. Jiangshan couldn't bear it anymore and asked, "Qingyu, the ointment you gave me last time." Lin Qingyu raised his eyes. "Do I look like someone who carries that sort of thing on me? You didn't want it when I gave it to you last time, and now it's gone. You're too late." Jiangshan just smiled. "You don't need to carry it. In the future, I'll carry it with me. If it's gone, it's fine. Forget it. Let's play something else this time." Saying that, he bowed his head again, closing in on him. Lin Qingyu's eyes widened and his voice trembled. "You." He didn't know where to put his hands and accidentally knocked against the scrolls beside him. The piled up scrolls suddenly toppled over and scattered all over the ground. Jiangshan found the table too inconvenient, so he carried Lin Qingyu to the bed. It was warm within the lotus canopy, and sweet fragrance suffused the air. By the time Lin Qingyu got down from the dragon bed, it was already late. Afterwards, Jiangshan pestered him into taking a nap and thus passed the entire day. Thinking of the piles of things waiting for him to deal with, Lin Qingyu felt a little regretful. He shouldn't have put off handling business to do improper things with his incapable ruler in broad daylight. He was afraid he was going to have to work through the night once again. Lin Qingyu returned to the desk only to see that the scrolls that had fallen had been picked up at some point and placed neatly on the desk. Whenever he was in the same palace as Jiangshan, the servants dared not to enter without permission. So, did Jiangshan take care of it? Lin Qingyu opened Wu Yoyon's report. Inside were 3 words written in his handwriting: "Divide and conquer." He turned to a certain someone completely passed out on the bed. He turned thoughtful. Jiangshan has been salted fish for too long. It was time to drag him to handle serious matters.